Hey everyone.
Konnichiwa! It is early here.
It is very early here.
It's 6:15?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Coming to you from the future.
Yes. Somehow it seems weirder today than all the other days when we film at night and it's morning for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we are here to recap yesterday, Monday, our first full day in Kyoto. So some highlights from yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So we got a bit of a later start than we had originally planned, which was actually nice, because our days have been really early. So we slept in for a sec, or rather, we took a little bit longer in the hotel before we went out, which turned out...
was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. Which meant we risked...
crowds.
Yeah, more crowds, because we were going to some of the more popular attractions here. Sites, yes. Here in Kyoto. But it actually turned out okay for us.
Yeah, we got lucky.
Yeah, it was I think like a weekday. We're in shoulder season, so we didn't have to deal with crowds too much.
Mm-hmm. So we headed out. Our first Kyoto temple, it was what was it?
Like a temple complex with...
Yeah. So a lot of the temples, there's like temple grounds, and they have like multiple buildings. And our first stop was, why can't I?
Kiyomizu-dera.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Which we kind of approached from hey Laurie. Well, I don't know. We were walking toward it, and we actually decided to walk from our hotel, which was great because we got to kind of see some cool looking neighborhoods and some more like traditional buildings. And we took a turn and did a little wandering and got to the temple site. Walked around. It was great.
Yeah.
And then we... This is hard the next day, everyone.
Yeah.
What happened yesterday?
Our day began with that temple and...
Hi, Mom.
ended with another temple.
Yes.
And this was actually kind of a special experience. This was Kodaiji, and this was open later at night.
Yeah, super cool.
They have like a setup where they have lights throughout the grounds, and you can go through them at night, which was a really interesting way to experience the temple in, I think, what will be like a unique way.
Yeah.
Among all of the temples and shrines that we'll be visiting.
Yeah, it was really neat. They had like just lights all along the path, and they had like a really well signed walkway, and we kind of walked through all the buildings, and then they had like lights projected into some of the trees, and then they actually even had like a little like light projection light show in their like Zen rock garden area. But yeah, that's the only temple I think that we'll be able to see at night. So it was a really cool experience to see, because I think it will be different than everything else we see during the day.
Then during the middle of our day, we went to Fushimi Inari, which is famous for having a bunch of gates. Like you can call them like squared arches.
Yeah, those red torii or orangey red torii gates. If you've looked up pictures of Japan, you've probably seen them. It's like just like a long tunnel of all these gates.
And they have thousands, upward of 10,000 gates from what we read. And
that was definitely a site where it had been recommended to go early in the day to avoid crowds. But because there are thousands, and it's like goes up a mountain.
Goes literally up Mount Inari.
Yeah. There's sort of like... It's like there's gates and then a little plateau, and then like more gates and a little plateau, and a lot of people will like turn around and come back down. So we ended up going all the way to the top, where the crowds thinned out, and so we got to enjoy some like more peaceful environments up there, which was really cool. And then the other highlight of yesterday was two unique to us like dining experiences, like things we haven't done yet. And the first one was we decided to have lunch from a convenience store, so we went to a 7-Eleven. Convenience stores in Japan are very there's a ton of them, and it's different. Like it's just a different like culturally and like what's available than what's in the US.
Yeah, it comes up a lot on like YouTube videos and like reviews of Japan, where they're like, stop in a convenience store and check it out.
Yeah.
And they do have, it feels like a slightly wider range of products than you would see in the US. But one thing I think of note is that it's not necessarily appropriate to walk around and eat food here. So there's like places to eat in the convenience store. So like in 7-Eleven they had like this long table, but then it had like dividers for people to like sit at and eat. So we sat there and had our stuff, and
yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
it was
new dining experience. Second new dining experience of the day was
the Starbucks in Kyoto. They have a location here that is in a 100-year-old building. So it's part of the traditional look and feel of the neighborhood, and they have tatami mat rooms upstairs. So you order your drink downstairs, go pick up your stuff, and then head upstairs and find yourself a spot. I mean, they have some normal tables too, but the appeal really is that it's like a tatami room experience. So you take off your shoes and sit on the floor. Yeah, you might think it's a little stretch for us to call it dining, but we enjoyed beverages and a treat there before going and finding our the rest of our dinner, which we were like, is this dinner? This is a piece of cake that we're splitting, so maybe it's not dinner.
Hopefully real dinner happens.
Yeah, so that was really cool, and actually it was the first Starbucks that we had gone into, which I like to go into Starbucks when I travel because I like to get my Starbucks mugs.
It's kind of understating it.
So I got my Japan mug. I might buy another one. We'll see, because they also have some like cherry blossom stuff right now. Still deciding about that, but I'm really glad we made it into that one. And we actually had to backtrack. It turns out we had actually passed it earlier in the day.
Like so close to it.
Like walked past it. Like we were on the street and walked past it and didn't see it. And that's how well they made it like blend into the neighborhood. And but it's actually probably better that we went when we did, because it would have been really crowded.
Yeah, it was a nice like experience in the evening.
Yeah, actually, and paired with the temple that we saw at night, just like kind of a similar atmosphere, like low light, very very
Starbucks.
chill.
Yeah, it was like quiet. You spoke in like hushed tones and didn't like make a ruckus. And then same thing at the temple, like it was quiet and like treating the grounds reverently.
Yeah. So I think.
So that ends our highlights for the day.
Yeah.
So if you've watched one of the videos before, you already know that.
We start with highlights.
What you're about to know if you were starting it for the first time, that we start with highlights at the beginning of the video, so you can just watch the beginning, get like
an idea.
Yeah, basically what we did during our day, and then we'll go back and talk in a little more detail about our day.
For those of you that want all of our steps, like everything we did. So now we're gonna go back to the beginning of the day. So like we said, we got a later start, and that was really like, I was super tired the night before and woke up the next day and was like, I'm not gonna be ready in like 40 minutes like we talked about.
And I was not gonna complain about having some time to just sit around our magical hotel room.
Yeah, oh my gosh, still really love our hotel so much. Like, if I could add a little bit more counter space in the bathroom, like, I want this exact bathroom. Like, I just love it. I love this setup. Although the turning on the hot water is interesting. So like anytime you want hot water, you have to turn it on using a switch on the wall. And sometimes I forget to do that if I just want like warm water for like my hands or something. So that's been different. But
once we did leave, like we mentioned, we decided to. It was a question of walk for a while, take a short bus, and walk for a long time, or we could just walk the whole way. Yeah. So we decided to go ahead and walk the whole way, which turned out to be like a really great choice, because we did get to walk through some of the neighborhoods in Kyoto that are still less touched by modern society. So they have like a pretty traditional feel to them.
So think like lots of wood, a lot of like windows and doors that are like wood. I don't know, small like beams. I'm not describing that really well, but just if you think of like old world Japan housing and like buildings, that's the kind of neighborhood we walked through. Yeah. Which was really cool. And then we got to a fork in the road where that's next, right? Yeah. Yes. Sure. Where we could have gone straight and up some stairs, or we could go to the left up a hill.
Like Google told us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Google told us to go to the left, and so we did. And then
we got like up this path like quite a ways.
Hiya.
And then we found like we were like standing at the beginning of a no admittance area.
Well, but we didn't know like there was
true.
There was like a gate and like a truck like a landscape truck like someone doing like yard work went up this driveway, and it didn't look like there were any sidewalks at that point.
Yeah,
and
it's like the atmosphere strongly implied that we probably weren't supposed to be there.
Right, but the only other path looked like it was heading into like housing, like private property housing.
Or we would have had to backtrack quite a ways, and we'd already walked a long time.
Yeah.
So
we went up the hill, and then we're walking up this hill, and I'm like, is that a gate at the end of this? Like, are we gonna have to climb over a gate? So we get up to this gate, which did look like it had a padlock on it, but it actually wasn't holding both sides of the gate together. Thank goodness. So we were able to like slide a bar out, like a latch, and like get out this gate. But as soon as we got to the other side of the gate, there was a sign like
we turned around and faced the gate again.
There was a sign that was basically like no entry, service people only.
Which is just par for the course for us.
Yes.
That is not the first time that's happened.
No, it's not. Almost the exact same thing happened in Paris, or actually at Versailles, where we ended up in some back area. Didn't know how, like...
We're just like going through Versailles like normal, and then suddenly we're in this like tiny French village,
and on the other side of a wall where we can tell like Versailles is on the other side, and we had to walk forever to find a way back in. And once we did, there was a sign that said like employees only, basically. But I don't know how we get into these areas and like don't discover it until we get out. So that was, I guess that's just something that happens. Although thankfully Versailles, we were like misrouted for like I don't even know. I didn't even look, but hours.
Yeah.
Like we were hours off track. Not this time. So then we approached the temple grounds.
We like walked up a street that had a whole bunch of shops or vendors on either side. So for breakfast, we had some leftover stuff that we got from a convenience store yesterday. These packaged bread products that's basically like bread filled with custard and stuff, which is lovely. And then since it had been, like an hour since we'd eaten some treats, we got some ice cream.
Obviously.
Soft serve cookies and cream ice cream.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
They had like mint chocolate chip soft serve and like a whole bunch of flavors we hadn't come across. So yeah, cookies and cream soft serve. Here for it. Really liked it.
And then a little further on, I decided to get this like baked fish situation.
Wait, that was later.
When?
Wasn't that before?
I don't think so. Or was it before Fushimi?
I think so.
Okay.
So not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
No, you're right. Yeah.
So this temple, the first one, I guess we kind of coming out of the grounds in the way that we did. I think we maybe kind of approached it backwards.
From the side?
From maybe like an angle that is not like normal.
Yeah.
But we recovered.
Yeah.
We found a map. Wandered our way through. It was like we mentioned a whole bunch of different buildings. We found them. We went to the main building.
Yeah, that's like where we came out. Like was basically at the main building, and it was actually really well organized there. They had signs with like a red arrow pointing which direction you should go. So like we said, it was like really big temple grounds with like various buildings, but they had like traffic flowing a certain direction through there.
Like definitely had like don't enter this way, and then like we would we followed the path and like looped out correct. So once we were on the grounds, it was much easier. At this particular, so some temples, at least from my understanding, now we've only been to two, and the two that we went to, you pay. Well, actually, for like this one, you had to pay to go into the main building, and I think depending on the temple, like sometimes you have to pay to go into buildings, sometimes you don't. So this one you had to pay to go into the main building, and this one's unique because it juts out over the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
And so like that's unique, but it's also kind of under not construction but refurbishment right now. I think they're trying to spruce it up before the Olympics. So so we walked through that building, walked around the grounds a little bit.
Yeah, one thing that stood out is that they had another opportunity to get a fortune. So our first day in Tokyo outside of Disneyland, if you watched our video, we did like a fortune thing. You shake this canister and pull out like a small bamboo stick which has symbols on it, and then you like go to a drawer that matches that and take out a fortune, and you can get a bad fortune or a good fortune. So in Tokyo, I got a very bad fortune. and then decided I did it wrong because I did, and got like a better fortune. So I decided that I'm going to try this fortune situation, most of the times that I can, because we are coming across them on a fairly regular basis.
Is that how you do fortunes? Yeah. We don't know.
Yep. So did it this time and got very bad fortune.
Oh yeah. Because this one was all in Japanese. So like when we did it before, there was English writing as well, but not this time. Yeah. So we had to do a little Google Translate action.
And it was full on like 88 years of evil. So if you get a bad fortune, you're supposed to like fold it up and tie it around this like bar, like this set of bars. And even in this case, I went to tie it and it like ripped. So then like I almost didn't have enough to actually tie it and leave my bad
evil
fortune.
Was starting right away.
I'm leaving my bad fortune away. Hi Jennifer.
Oh yeah, hi Jennifer.
Miss you too. Okay, yeah.
And that was probably like, first temple we were kind of walking around, just kind of taking it all in. But then as we were leaving...
one note about this whole area, there were cherry trees all over the place. All over the place. But they're still not in bloom in Kyoto.
They're so close.
It would be magnificent.
They're so close.
Like the buds are like there.
You can see the color.
We just need a warmer day, which isn't in the forecast, for them to open up.
It's cold.
But yeah, as we left the temple grounds, we came upon this graveyard that had like more grave markers than I've at least personally seen in any cemetery. There were so many of them. And just kind of scattered, like packed.
Orderly scattered.
Orderly packed, with like nice straight rows, across here's like the kind of the plateau you're on, and then there's more here, and then more down here, and more up over here. So many.
Oh, we went out of focus there.
What?
I don't know why.
What happened? If we tap again, oops.
Oh.
No.
There we go.
Okay, we're kind of back.
Don't know what happened there.
Bye, Lori.
Bye, Lori.
Yeah, so one thing that stood out to me was that there were so many graves with fresh flowers on them.
Very
like
well
fresh
tended.
flowers. So many of these like hundreds of graves, like well tended and had like obviously people regularly visiting.
We
them.
I pulled up a little bit of research before we walked in there, just so we kind of knew what we were seeing, and so I guess it's. Family members come and clean the gravesite and bring incense and other like offerings and flowers and it was very well tended too. Very you could tell. Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting.
From there, we knew that we had a lot of stairs in our future, so we decided that we should get some food before that. And like we mentioned in the highlights, this is where we stopped by
7-Eleven.
The 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Which there's a lot of different chain. Well, there's probably some primary chains, but we actually don't have a 7-Eleven near where we're staying. It's not our closest convenience store. Mm-hmm. But there are so many 7-Elevens here. Like, it's a super popular chain. They have 7-Eleven ATMs. Mm-hmm. That's actually where we first got cash. We keep going in and out of focus. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. So I thought, look, that would be kind of interesting because we hadn't gone into a 7-Eleven to see their specific selection. And like we mentioned in our highlights, they have all different kinds of food that you don't necessarily see, or to like a level of variety that you don't necessarily see in the States. And they do have a lot of stuff that is meant for like grab and go meals, and they even have stuff that needs to be heated, and they'll like heat it for you there if you want. Like we didn't have any of that, but they have like pasta dishes and noodle dishes and all kinds of stuff, and they'll and they'll heat them up for you right there if you want them. They've got like more I know like in the States they might have like a couple hot items in a case, like maybe like a hot dog or something, but here it's like but here it's like all different kinds of stuff, like a lot of chicken, a lot of like croquette kind of things are very popular here, so they might have like a variety of those. So we had some fun like picking out different things, and and got some seats in there and had lunch, and it was delightful. And like I don't know, mine was like $5 or something.
Yeah, the food really like feels very cheap. You like grab a bunch of stuff and then it rings up and it's $6 or 600 yen. It's often kind of surprised by the price. So from there we jumped on the subway, headed down to...
Just a note about that subway. We stopped and used the restroom in that subway, and it was like nicer than the bathrooms at Disneyland. Like considerably, because And I just think that's worth noting because it was a subway. That's all. I just need to throw that in there.
When we got off the subway, we were headed toward Fushimi Inari, and I jumped the gun a bit. But this is where we had the long street with the vendors on either side.
Yes,
Kit Kats.
My mom's asking about Kit Kats.
Yes.
We've seen them.
We've looked for a lot of Kit Kats. There's less of a variety of Kit Kats than I personally was expecting.
Like, I kind of feel like maybe we have not found where the Kit Kats live in entirety. So we have seen a lot of Kit Kats, but we haven't actually, like, made the plunge and purchased any yet.
Yeah, it's true.
So I feel like that'll probably fit into, like, our Tokyo shopping days, most likely. So there's a lot of Kit Kats, and there have been some unique flavors, but again, like, we just haven't tried them yet.
Yeah.
But we will. I promise.
So walking up the street, we stopped in at a couple of them, like notably like a chopstick shop. That had all sorts of a variety of different chopsticks. I saw like titanium chopsticks for $130. Didn't get those ones. And then there's a dessert that you can get here. It kind of looks like a fish-shaped waffle, except inside, like, it has a filling inside of it. So when we got to that stand, they didn't have any because they were still cooking. So we actually got to stand there and watch the whole process. It was very intricate, like very like attention to detail. A lot of like squeezing out like tiny bits of batter to like fill out the edges, and he's like dropping down so that he's level and seeing all of them, and like unsticking them and adding the toppings, and then eventually like sticking the two halves together. It was like very thorough, and it was interesting to see the process.
And if you're in Seattle, we do have a food truck that has these as well. I forget what they're called, but it might just be called beanfish, because one of the most popular fillings is like the red bean paste. But yeah, so if you've had that, hey Laura, so if you've seen that food truck around in Seattle, you know what we're talking about. So you grabbed that as a snack, and then we headed up to the gates.
To Fushimi Inari again. So these are a bunch of, do you say torii gates?
Yeah.
They're like squared off arches that are orange. On one side, like the columns on either side are blank, but if you like walk around and turn back and face the other side, they have characters all like carved into them.
People can buy them, and so you can inscribe the back. I'm assuming like your name or like the names of who it's honoring potentially.
Yeah, and the biggest ones are like on the order of like thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, it's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So
these go like all the way up like a mountain, Mount Inari, and we walked up and we walked up and we walked up.
Yeah, I don't know that we didn't really talk about it before we went there of like how far we wanted to go.
No, obviously you have to go to the top, right?
I guess you obviously have to go to the top. Yeah, well, and we also knew by getting a later start, like, it does get really crowded there, and so we knew, like, the higher we went, the thinner the crowds would be, and we'd have a better chance of just, like, having some elbow room and getting some pictures without, like, 100 people in them.
Yeah.
So...
Turned to be really nice. There were parts of the hike that I kept saying, like, this looks like or at least feels like the Pacific Northwest. Like
weather-wise.
It was a bit chilly, and like sometimes we were like even like fairly alone like on the path, and so it just seemed like nice and calm and overcast, which was great lighting for pictures. We looked great yesterday, and not as tired as I looked this morning.
So that was great. We made it to the top, which actually I looked at some pictures just to kind of timestamp it, and it took us like a little over an hour and a half to get to the top, and I think maybe like about an hour or so to get down. Yeah. So, which we had heard someone say at the bottom, like a tour guide, that it would take 2 hours.
And I was very skeptical of that. I was pretty sure he was like telling his group that, like, justifying why they weren't going all the way to the top. Why he wasn't taking them to the top. But it turns out it was quite a hike.
It was a hike, and like parts of it are really steep. And it's not like, we're not talking like even. It's stairs, but it's not like super even. I think we need to mention the maps. So there's like a big map. There's multiple big maps along the way. But when you look at it at the bottom, you're like, oh, okay, like here's the path, like goes to here. Then you get like about halfway up, and there's another map, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, how?
Like it marks it, and you basically haven't moved on the map. It's like, how is this? How long is this trail? If that whole part that we just hiked is like this much on the map.
An inch. But part of it too is that the map that's at the bottom of the mountain does not show the entire path because it's really long going up a mountain. So you kind of get.
When we did see it, like the previous map, that one did show the whole mountain still.
It did. So there's like multiple things like playing with you as you go up. But yeah, definitely the map at the bottom does not show the full route. So we kind of hung out.
We went up, and then on the way back down, we like hung out there for a few minutes just to watch like all the people get to that point and be like, how long is this? What, we've only gone here like in multiple languages.
Because we did that the first time. And when we were going up, other people came. There was like just a little flurry of people around us. And the same thing, they would like look at the map and be like, that can't be right? Is that right? And we're just kind of laughing because we had done the exact same thing. So yeah, we hung out there for a little bit, took a little break on the way down, and like laughed to ourselves at everyone that was stopping. Like, because even if they weren't speaking English, it's like you could tell their reaction. They'd be like, they'd stop and they'd point, and then they'd like
talk to the people with them,
and then they'd kind of start laughing, or there's this look of disbelief. Like it was really funny.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
One other thing that happened is like way up in the top of somewhere in the top, they had another opportunity to get a fortune. This time though, it was from like a plastic Easter egg. And that time I got the best fortune, like as in the like thing says this is the best. Yeah, this is the best fortune. So when we finally made it down, we like hung out on a bench, like a rock wall for a second.
Yes, found a wall.
Figured out what we were going to do next.
I think it's worth pointing out that there's a lot of stairs, obviously, in Fushimi Inari, and there's also like places for people to pray and stuff, and so there's signs that say like, do not sit on these stairs, don't eat or drink here. So we got down and we're like, we need a surface we can sit on. So we were looking around and we were like, okay, there's a wall over there that like other people seem to be using as a seating area. So we went over there to figure out our next step. Yeah,
and that's when we decided to head to the Starbucks.
And that is also, so like, since we got a later start and we spent that much time at Fushimi Inari, it was like way later in the day than we had initially planned. So at this point, the other temples that were on our list were closed. Yeah. So we needed to like...
Yeah, that would have been just after 5.
Yeah, so we had to like refigure out a plan. And that's when I was like, even though we're backtracking to almost exactly where we were earlier today, I really want to go to this Starbucks.
Yeah, in this section of the city, the subway has stops very far away from each other, and the buses also don't necessarily have convenient stops. So we basically had to go back to like where we're staying and then walk again, like a half an hour. Like
just like deja vu.
Yesterday, my Fitbit said that we had like 26,000 steps,
and I forgot to wear my Fitbit yesterday.
Yeah, sad.
But I'm wearing it today.
So we talked about in the highlights what the Starbucks was like. A very unique experience because it was like a very old, 100-year-old building, and it didn't stand out at all. Like there was like a tiny Starbucks sign on the like front, and then like a tiny one on the side as well. We got to it, and Katrina started taking pictures of an old building. I'm like, what are we looking at exactly? It was the Starbucks. So we went inside and like got a seat. This is like the draw is like the tatami mat floors in the eating areas. So we sat on the floor, enjoyed the stuff that we picked up there.
Yeah, I had a tiramisu frappuccino, which I don't know if we have that in the States, but it was really yummy. Had a treat and hung out there for a little bit while we figured out, the next temple we wanted to go to was literally like a 4-minute walk.
Yeah, so close. Very nice. Again, that's Kodaiji, and this was the one that was open after dark. After sunset, it's like it closes and then reopens after sunset, and they have the whole grounds lit with lights, which ended up being like a really...
It was so nice.
Yeah, really beautiful experience and walkthrough.
And really well marked paths.
And similar to the other temple, like they definitely like map traffic through there a specific way.
And this was cool, like you went by a whole bunch of buildings. You didn't go through as many, but yeah, it was really beautiful. It was really well lit, as in like beautifully lit, not like floodlights.
Yeah.
And
there were some floodlights.
There were some floodlights. And so we walked through like their main building, and
walked past like a pond that like within the darkness looked almost like
glass.
glass.
It was glass.
Yeah. So reflection was
of all
really
the
nice.
trees that were nicely lit.
Yeah.
And then there was like a little mini like area where you walk through bamboo.
Bamboo, yeah.
That was also like uplit.
Underneath.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, very, very pretty.
And then we walked there, like one of their main buildings had like a rock garden, and then like down on the rock garden they were projecting like a little like I say like film, but like an animation. Yeah,
like there were some like dragons that like flew past and some splashing water
and some music.
Yeah.
And then like every few seconds they'd like light this cherry tree.
Yeah.
That was partially lit.
Yeah.
Mom, I did not see if Starbucks had gift cards. I didn't see any at the one we were at.
I didn't see any.
But I plan to pop into a couple more, so I'll take a look. But I didn't see any.
Yeah. So kind of starting to speed through.
Yeah, because we have a bus to catch.
We have a bus to catch in a few minutes.
But yeah, there was also like another building we walked through that had art that was really pretty. But yeah, overall, just really loved it. And there is like I think there's one other temple that does things at night, but it's not while we're here. Like, remember that had like weeks that they took off?
Yeah.
And they're like the week we're here, they don't have it.
Yeah.
But check it out if you're in the area to see like where you can enter at night. It's also neat just because so many of them do close early, so it's nice to have like an evening option, and also just a different experience. Favorite spot?
Let's say in Kyoto, Fushimi Inari was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like all the thousands of like arches, and like I enjoy a hike to the top of a mountain when there's like a purpose, and like if the purpose is like seeing like the thousands of arches, that was really fun.
Well, and I also really liked that even though we got such a late start, we still managed to find like space with no one else. So that was really nice.
Yeah. So at that,
we took a photo for like an Australian guy who was like, the guidebooks tell you to come here, but they don't tell you about the thousands of tourists. That's not an Australian accent.
Yeah. It's basically there. And we actually did know we were going to see all the tourists because we did a little bit more.
We did more research than him.
Yeah. Okay, so from there we needed dinner. So we looked around and considered our options and decided to go back to a place that we've been to a couple of times, Ippudo Ramen. When we got there, like we actually had to wait in line. And then eventually, like this giant group of businessmen came out, and then like the line like went into the store.
We all got in.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it was actually a really small Ippudo location, so that's why we had to wait in line.
And then after that, we stopped in a convenience store, a couple convenience stores, because we needed our nightly snacks.
Yeah, I wanted a very specific breakfast item that wasn't at 7-Eleven.
We also wanted to stop by a drugstore, but they actually closed just before we got done with dinner.
We passed a couple on the way to dinner. I'm still searching for a specific hand lotion, although I did get one last night. That's like a peach tea I'm very excited about. But I just want to call out, this is interesting. When we were hiking up Fushimi Inari, there were a lot of people who, I mean, and if you saw like Jared's story from yesterday, I don't know if you can see what I'm wearing, but I'm like in a lacy top. Like I'm not like in a hiking outfit, but we saw all kinds of outfits up that mountain, including like a lot of people in Kyoto do like the traditional, like they'll dress up in a kimono. There's a lot of kimono rental, and then they're like hiking up the mountain in
like
those
wooden
wooden
sandals.
shoes.
Yeah.
And then we saw people in heels. I saw a woman in like thigh high boots. We saw a lot of skirts going up this mountain. Not like long skirts, like a lot of mini skirts,
and almost like fishnets.
But interestingly, like we did see this one woman in a mini skirt, and then it dawned on me that we had actually seen her earlier that day. Like I had seen her on a bike with the guy that she was with, and I was very excited.
You're very fascinated by this, coming across the same person we've seen before.
It was hours later, and I recognized her because she was like a woman in a miniskirt on a bicycle, but she had leggings on earlier, but she had taken the leggings off for the hike. But then when we went to dinner, we definitely ran into people again that we had seen on the street. So it's just one of those weird things. It's like you cross paths with someone and then you keep seeing them. I mean, that's happened to me in other places when I travel, and I guess Kyoto's not like giant, but I just think it's interesting. Like we definitely saw people earlier in the day, saw them on the mountain, and then saw people on the mountain that we then saw at dinner. I don't know, just interesting to call out.
So after our convenience stores, we hopped on a bus. Oh, we did forget to mention that going to dinner, we actually had to bus hop a little bit because we got on one, it was going the wrong direction. Then when we got there was another bus like coming right away, so we hopped on that one, and that was going going the wrong direction somehow, and so we hopped off that one, and then we didn't find the right bus and like made it to Ippudo. But that gets us to the end of the day. If we don't hop off now, we're gonna have to run for our bus. And
we don't want to run for that. So thanks for watching.
Right.
If you have any questions, let us know. We'll see you later
Yep.
sometime. Bye.
Right, bye.
Have a great rest of your day.